Hi, everyone. My name is Lynne Tien, and we are Team Mobility. My name is Lynn.
Evelyn.
My name is Fadi.
And my name's Zeu.
And so I'll let Fadi start us off.
Thank you, Lynn. When I was first asked which 3 words best describe Los Angeles, the first 3 words that came to my mind is so much traffic. The reason behind why LA has so much traffic is mainly because the majority have decided to stick to a private mode of transportation, such as cars and motorcycles. Not to mention the abundance of commercial drivers hauling cargo, with vehicles ranging from small vans to trucks. When we take these two and combine them, we get an extreme amount of traffic. Now that we have identified the problem, which is people are utilizing public transportation, which leads to an increased amount of traffic, we can now propose a solution. The solution we reached is to promote and inform the population about available alternative transportation methods. Who is this for? We designed our project with LA County residents as our target audience, who, like you and me, are fed up with traffic. If potentially their goal is to reduce car use for better health and wealth, we intend to help improve and promote the idea from private to public transportation options. The LA County residents can be categorized into 4 different types. A frequent user, which is a user who uses public transportation around 3 times a week. An occasional user, a user who uses public transportation once a month. An infrequent user, a user who uses public transportation once a year. And a non-rider who hasn't used public transportation in the past year. Now, coming down to numbers, 84% of all of LA County residents ride a public mode of transportation. However, infrequent users represent more than half of the LA County who do use public transportation. After conducting a few interviews, we came to the conclusion that users have 3 important metrics regarding public transportation. The first one being speed, which is how fast a person can get from one point to another. The second one being frequency, which is how frequent are those modes of transportation, in other words, their availability. And the third one is reliability. How reliable can these modes of transportation be? Will I be on time? Am I going to be late? And etc. Now I'm going to give my group member Evelyn to continue off with the proposed solution.
So now on to our proposed solution, which stemmed from our design challenge. How might we create a transportation planning tool providing the public community real-time information with intuitive, user-friendly design as a safe transportation option to attract users within the Los Angeles County? These are our key components, which can be summed up as making sure that users have access to information in the most easiest way possible so that they will feel more comfortable to use public transportation and see it as a more convenient mode of transportation to get from one place to another in the traffic congested LA. Now our solution has been split into 2 parts, the front end and the back end. The front end is a mobile app for bus riders to use to aid in the usage of public transportation. It relays the user information on the bus's capacity, whether it be in real time or an estimated capacity at any given time for the user to plan any future trips. The backend is also split into 2 parts, the hardware sensor and the API. The hardware sensor is to actually measure the real-time bus capacity, and the API is to hold the data and communicate the hardware with the front-end app to give an estimated capacity should users want the bus capacity at any later times. The features of our app benefits 2 types of users, bus riders and companies. Providing real-time bus capacity as well as future estimates allows bus riders to plan their trips accordingly. For example, it would allow them to see what the peak hours of each bus is so that they could choose to go earlier or later to avoid these peak hours. On the other side, we can use this technology to allow transit providers to know which buses are more popular, which are being used more so that they can receive the support they need, which would be to send more buses at stops in which buses are constantly at a higher capacity. It also allows them to plan a better transit system that correlates with bus rider schedules. And interesting enough, in the case of companies, if given this anonymous data, they will be able to change or design the workplace to accommodate bus using employees and promote the use of public transportation through choosing the company's location around readily available public transportation or scheduling hours that correlate with bus schedules around the area.
Okay, so let's talk about the prototype. So mobility as a solution, as you've seen in previous slides, have two main focus, promoting and informing the general population about alternative public transportation. In terms of promoting, hopefully with being implemented correctly, large urban areas will realize the potential of public transportation as a safe way to go between places and the effects it can have in terms of easing the congestion in terms of traffic, since there wouldn't be a lot of private transportation as more people use public transportation. In terms of informing, as we've said before, the main goal is to make sure that we give accurate information about public transportation, in this case, mainly capacity, which helps create a sense of transparency and reliability because, and making sure, making it feel like more of a convenience to use buses and public transportation, since the users would have all the data that they need as to when and where buses are, how many people are in the buses, etc. So it's not much of a nuisance. So as a potential in the current market, right now, as we all know, we're currently living in a COVID pandemic world. And while most of us are lucky enough to be able to quarantine and self-isolate, there are certain demographics, more specifically low-income minorities, who use a lot of public transportation. The majority of them do. And most of them cannot self-isolate or quarantine because they're predominantly working essential jobs like line cooks and grocery workers. And we have an article that also states that they are disproportionately more likely to be uninsured or underinsured for medical care. With all this combined, like, it's very dangerous for low-income minorities right now to go out and try and live, because they have to go outside and work, but there isn't much safety. And how mobility as a solution can help is, since we're tracking capacity in buses, people can ensure that they can try and practice social distancing before they even enter a vehicle, because they know that the bus is under half capacity or low capacity, and that helps them have a more peace of mind, I mean, in using the transportation that they need, trying to be more safe outside during this pandemic. So in terms of the development of prototype, we had, as we said before, it's kind of split into two parts. We had a front end and then a back end, and as well as the hardware alongside it. This was the original plan, using React Native for Web, Django as a API to connect the front end to a hardware that would have used a Raspberry Pi as well as a Connect, so that we can track them. This led to more fat finger designs for the web app, but eventually we transitioned towards a mobile app instead. And this is a shift so that more users are able to use it, since most everyone has a smartphone these days, so that they don't necessarily have to go on the computer. Like, they could be waiting at the bus stop and still have the information that they need. So with that being said, we do have a prototype. Yes. Can you put it up, please? Where is it?
Next to messages.
Sorry?
Next to messages above the Play Store.
Oh, found it. yeah, so we developed a, oh no, that's the wrong version, Lynn.
Oh no,
um,
apologies.
apologies.
Sorry.
So while that's working out, I'll just talk about it briefly. So we developed uh, a app, just a simple demo to show what it would look like using Flutter. So Google's framework, mobile framework, so that it could be potentially be deployed in both the Google Play Store as well as the Apple App Store, so that we can reach as many users as we can. And potentially this can be translated towards web, because Google is trying to push it so not only do you have both Android and iOS devices being able to run the programs as well, but they're also trying to make sure that it works on browsers as well. So as you can see here, we have a mock-up of the app. In the background, it would be the map. So that would show lines of buses, and underneath, okay, making sure I can control it, is a list of current bus lines available. So right here, if you click on any of the bus lines, it just gives a second screen. This would show more data than it is now, like scheduling and peak times, etc. But right now it's just showing the same information, such as current capacity and max capacity. And if you go back, we also do have a search function. So if there is a lot of bus lines in that area, we could try and see, okay, which are making sure that we only reach the 250 bus lines, or making sure we only get the 71 bus line, etc. And that's pretty much it for this prototype. There's not much to it, but it just shows the potential it has as a working product. And now we're gonna go ahead and give it to Lynn.
Thank you, Zeu. So as you saw in our prototype, what did we mentioned to our competitors? So there's transit apps, Metro's app itself, City Mapper, and all these apps provide somewhat components that you can utilize to show and demonstrate functionalities like real-time schedule, and maybe even sending a message to sheriffs about any safety or incidents, and some alerts. But none of them provide any real-time counting of the passengers in transportation. And so if I go into the hardware side, there are automatic passenger counting tools within bus systems. And actually the one in the Metro bus system for Los Angeles uses active and passive infrared transmitters. Unfortunately, that hardware has already phased out in 2016 and is no longer being supported. Currently, the new model provides API assistance, but it's very expensive and you would require to implement it during the first purchase of your bus. Our next steps in testing and implementation would be continue working on our Pi and as well as our app as well. Originally, we had planned to use the Cal State bus system for our school, but due to, as you mentioned, due to COVID-19, it has created issues there's issues to that, and we've created a different approach to solve this. So another way we would try to safely practice our ideas would be to implement this into sensors over a door, sort of like an alarm system. And then if that works out, we might plan to share our ideas into campus buildings or to bus station buildings themselves to kind of test statically. And proving if static success, we would try it on our own mobile vehicles and afterwards request testing our prototypes on bus systems themselves. To determine if our prototype is a success, from a software engineering perspective, we hope our tool accomplishes the people counting feature we want, monitoring the lifespan of the hardware components, and as well as the accuracy within the app and the hardware itself. Human-centered wise, we feel it's important to create and inquire from our riders on the app if our tool provides accurate information and gives comfort and security that we hope our ideas provides during this time. We also would hope that our last measurement would be increasing ridership, shows matching the data correlated with the users of our apps. And potential marketing plans. During this research and information gathering, we needed to design our project. We are so thankful to these members, part of these transportation communities and services, for providing input and assistance towards our research. Active SG over here promotes pedestrian safety, social economic justice, and as well as transit improvement, just as we hope our idea does. We also hope to work with school and city and state officials to kind of assist us with developing this idea to their public buildings. And lastly, we potentially hope to move forward by applying our idea towards a grant for California transit systems, and as well as the school civic and social innovation group. And as our idea will hope to promote changes during this time for COVID-19. Thank you so much for listening.